Kendrick Perkins shows the ultimate respect to Jalen Brunson, and I'm here to break it all down. All that and much more on the Knicks Digest. What's up, guys? It's your boy Dario from Knicks Digest, and I want to get right into today's video. So earlier today on First Take, Stephen A. Smith had Shannon Sharp and Kendrick Perkins, and they were talking about the current season and the current season of the New York Knicks. I want to highlight what Kendrick Perkins had to say. First and foremost, Jalen Big Body Brunson should be in the MVP conversation. Now, I want to give a big shout out to Kendrick Perkins, because Kendrick Perkins is one of, if not the only ESPN commentator or color analyst that is consistently given Brunson the respect that he deserves. Chris and I are always on these videos talking about why Jalen Brunson isn't in the MVP conversations, why Jalen Brunson isn't starting in the All-Star game. The one thing I can say about Kendrick Perkins is that consistently he's been repping Jalen Brunson since Jalen Brunson has gotten to the New York Knicks. And just to dive deeper into what Kendrick Perkins said, later on in the show, he goes on to say, Jalen Brunson embodies everything that the Knicks and the city of New York is about. Blue collar, hardworking, getting it out the mud. We all saw that video that went viral about a month ago, where Rick Brunson was working with him saying harder, more. I don't know if there's any other ball handler in the league outside of LeBron James that does what Jalen Brunson does on a night-to-night basis when I say game manager and a game changer. Again, man, Kendrick Perkins just highlighting what Chris and I are always saying in these videos. We don't understand why Jalen Brunson does not get the love and the respect that he deserves. It's been about a season and a half of Jalen Brunson just putting the New York Knicks organization on his back and carrying them. I also want to back up what Kendrick Perkins is saying with evidence. So, NBA.com, I believe they have a weekly MVP ladder where every week they just rank the MVP contenders for the league. The most recent one was, I believe, on January 26th by Michael Wright. And I'm going to give you the top three. They had five, but I'm going to give you the top three. So coming in at number 3, they had Shay Gilgeous-Alex from the OKC Thunder. And as you can see here, he's averaging 31.1 points, 5.6 rebounds, 6.5 assists. SGA from the OKC Thunder, like, he 100% deserves to be on that list. Like, right now, I believe they're first in the West, or maybe second. I checked a couple days ago, they were first in the Western Conference. And the way SGA is playing, man, he deserves to be in the MVP conversation. I don't think anybody really saw this coming from SGA. Not even Doc Rivers when he was the coach of the Clippers or the GM, or he was both at the time. And he traded SGA away to get Paul George. And we all know the ending of that story. I remember telling my friend Steph, shout out Steph, SGA's rookie season, they went up against Kevin Durant and the Warriors. I believe it was the first year or maybe the second year. They took the Warriors to 6 games. It was the Clipper team where they had Patrick Beverley, Danilo Gallinari, SGA, Montrezl Harrell. They took the Warriors to 6 games in the first round. And SGA looked like, at the time, a 5-year veteran. And I told my friend Steph, I was like, man, I really like this kid. This kid is playing like he's not scared. This kid is playing like he belongs. And I told him that he had a gem. He had a gem at SGA. And then the next thing you know, in that offseason, Kawhi wanted to leave and come back home to LA. And he came to the Clippers, but the only way he was going to come to the Clippers was if he got another star with him. And then that's the whole Paul George trade from OKC to the Clippers. And that's how it all happened. And now the Clippers have to look at SGA being in an MVP conversation and 100% kicking themselves in the butt. So SGA came in third. Coming in second on the MVP ladder, we got Nikola Jokic from the Denver Nuggets, of course. I don't think this is a surprise. His stats, he's averaging 26.3 points per game, 11.9, which is basically 12 rebounds per game, and 9 assists. The man is basically averaging a triple-double. In my lifetime, as far as skilled big men, he might be the most skilled big man. Him and Joel Embiid are right there on par, neck and neck with each other. Maybe the slight edge that I give to Joel Embiid is he has a little bit more of ball handling ability. Jokic has a shot, he has a mid-range, he has a post-up, he has a three-pointer. He can put the ball on the floor, but that's not one of his strong suits. Well, Joel Embiid, if he's putting the ball on the floor, that's not something you can devise a defense for or draw out a scheme. Nikola Jokic, some teams, I feel like they want him to put the ball on the floor instead of making everybody else around him better. I think asking Nikola Jokic to put the ball on the floor is one of his weaknesses. And that's where Joel Embiid doesn't have any weaknesses. But as far as Nikola Jokic, again, in my lifetime, I believe he is tied for the best skilled big man that I have ever seen. Last season, they won the championship. He won the finals MVP. So there's no surprise here. He deserves to be in this conversation. But at number 1, they had the big man that I was just talking about. They had Joel Embiid from the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, this season so far, averaging 36 points, 11.4 rebounds, 5.8 assists. Man, Joel Embiid, I don't know what else to say, man. Like, last season, he won the MVP, and actually, a lot of people believe that Joel Embiid, the only reason why he won the MVP was because nobody wanted Joker to win 3 MVPs in a row, because if he won 3 MVPs in a row, then that was going to catapult him into, like, basically NBA immortality, which at the time didn't really seem fair because he didn't have any championship rings to back it up. So that was the whole conundrum with Joel Embiid and the Nikola Jokic MVP award last season. They ended up giving it to Embiid. Embiid definitely deserved it, but this season, if Embiid doesn't win, it's the only reason why he's not going to win the MVP is because he went over that missing 25 games threshold. The NBA, they just put in a new rule that in order to make all NBA teams or get any awards, the minimum amount of games that you have to play in is 65. You're only allowed to be in the All NBA conversation or MVP conversation if you play up to 65 games. Now, he's been missing games as of late. He actually didn't play against Denver. I believe it was on Sunday when Philly was in Denver and Joel didn't play. He ended up coming out of the locker room towards the end of the game, and the Denver fans were booing him because everybody wanted to see Joker versus Embiid, but Embiid, he ducked the smoke again, back-to-back seasons. That's one thing I don't like about Embiid. But if we're talking about MVP conversation, those 3 players, SGA, Joker, and Embiid, 100% deserve to be the top 3 and also deserve to be on the list. Now, what I find disrespectful is Michael Wright, who wrote this article, he also included 5 other players that deserve to be in the conversation. If we take a look here, the next 5, he had Luka, he had Domantas Sabonis, he had KD, Kawhi Leonard, and Devin Booker. So to round out the top 10, he didn't even have Jalen Brunson. And I just gave you the top 3. And I believe 4 and 5 was Giannis Antetokounmpo and Jason Tatum. So again, number 1, we had Embiid. Number 2, we had Joker. Number 3, we had SGA. Number 4, I believe, was Giannis. Number 5 was Jason Tatum. And now we have here in front of us 6 through 10, no Jalen Brunson. And then to even get more disrespectful, look at the 5 more. Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Zion Williamson. This is insane. Michael Wright having Zion Williamson in the MVP ladder article instead of Jalen Brunson, this is like the utmost disrespect that I've ever seen in my life. Jalen Brunson right now for the season is averaging 26.7 points, 3.9 rebounds, which is basically 4, 6.5 assists, shooting 48% from the field, 42.4, which is 42.5 from 3-point, converting 83% of his free throws. Jalen Brunson not getting the respect that he deserves as far as MVP talk, as far as all-star starter nods. It's really not Jalen Brunson's fault. I just believe the media and anybody that's in control of talking about the NBA and the NBA zeitgeist, I just feel like their brain is like so equipped to the Knicks being horrible that whenever those topics of conversation come up, like your brain doesn't automatically go towards the New York Knicks. It goes to the Lakers, it goes to the Miami Heat, it goes to any other team that's the New York Knicks, because the New York Knicks have been atrocious for so long. We haven't had any respectable players. Basically, Melo was probably earlier. Knicks Carmelo Anthony tenure was probably the most recent time where we had a Knick player being in the conversation for All-Star or maybe MVP talk. But prior to that, it was probably Patrick Ewing in the 90s, which is embarrassing. Anything from 2001 all the way up until 2009, 2010, around the time Amari came, we got, oh my God, those teams were horrible. Stephon Marbury, Steve Francis, Jamal Crawford, Jerome Robinson, Nate Robinson, Channing Frye. Those teams, we had nobody in any type of conversations. MVP, All-Star. David Lee did end up making 1 All-Star, I believe, when he was with the Knicks. So shout out to David Lee. But again, and on top of that, I think David Lee made the All-Star because someone got injured and they needed someone to replace him. So David Lee, you got that All-Star nod and that resume. So big respect to you, much respect. But again, man, this just goes to show how much of an embarrassment of a history that the Knicks have. Our best player that's ever played for the Knicks organization was all the way back in the 70s. If you want to debate Willis or Clyde or Earl Pearl, whoever you want to debate, but all the way back in the 70s, and then the next player that's going to join in the conversation is Patrick Ewing, and then after Patrick Ewing, we got Carmelo Anthony, who in my opinion didn't really do much with the Knicks. And yeah, I understand the organization didn't really help him out, but we got Melo towards towards the latter part of his prime. He was still in his prime when he got to the Knicks, but he didn't have a lot of time left. But in my opinion, Melo didn't do enough in order to get into the Nick great conversation. That's just my opinion. But that's it for today's video, guys. Before I wrap it up, again, I want to say salute to Kendrick Perkins. I want to say thank you so much for keeping Jalen Brunson's name in the NBA zeitgeist. Knicks fans over here, everybody at Knicks Digest, we love you. We hope you keep doing it. And hopefully Jalen Brunson is going to be able to take the Knicks further into this season. But until next time, guys, of course, it's always going to be go Knicks, go Jalen Brunson. And I'll check you out later. Peace.